Hi everybody, I hope you're having a great day. Let's talk today about thesis statements and T-123 outlines. A lot of students tell me they really hate outlining, and that's because they were taught the traditional ABC 123 outline. This outlining form is simple, it's flexible, and it's helpful for all kinds of writers. Let's start with a thesis statement. A thesis statement is the main point you're trying to make in your essay. It's a controlling idea. It should focus on an interesting issue, something that is important to your reader. The thesis defines the limit of your paper and tells the reader what to expect from your paper. Most importantly, it's like a contract with your reader, and it promises to explain something fully and completely. That's the important thing about a thesis statement. So you need to think about, what is my belief and what do I want to explain to my reader? What is the big picture? Sometimes finding a thesis statement isn't the easiest thing to do. For railroad writers, the thesis statement is like a beacon. It's like their central focus. And they must write a thesis statement first and then proceed to prove it. That's how their mind works. If you're a railroad writer and you don't have a thesis statement and you sit down to write, you're just going to experience frustration. You need to get up and walk around and do whatever it is you do to help stimulate your thinking so that you can figure out what your thesis statement is. If you're a spiraling writer, it might work the other way around. You might need to write first, and then maybe do some reading, and then think, and then write again, and then when you look at what you've written, you then write your thesis statement. Often the spiraling writer will write a thesis statement that fits the parameters of what they've already written, and they refine and rewrite the thesis as they move through the writing process. So the thesis goes through revision as their paper goes through revision. Either way is acceptable as long as you end up with a thesis statement that clearly defines what the essay is about and an essay that completely explains or defends the thesis. Those qualities must occur regardless of what type of writer you are. The best writers, it's hard to tell what kind of writer they are. You don't walk into their piece and go, "Oh, clearly a railroad writer," because they have achieved good writing. Or clearly a spiraling writer because they have achieved good writing. Good writing looks good regardless. The anatomy of a thesis statement, or perhaps the formula for writing one, if you want to use that word, is that the subject of the sentence is the subject of the essay, and the predicate of the sentence is the point of view or attitude about that subject. It's always very general, and it's an opinion. Don't forget your tone when you're writing a thesis statement. It's easy in this day of talk show news hosts to become very politicized and aggressive with your tone. But that is not a good thesis statement for an academic paper. You need to not turn your reader off. Therefore, use a professional and authoritative tone. Assume that you have a hostile audience and that you actually want to convince them rather than make them angry. Don't write a highly opinionated thesis. I don't mean that you can't have an opinion. I just mean that your opinion shouldn't include a lot of charged words that would set your reader against you. In order to write a good thesis statement, you sort of have to make the assumption that everybody disagrees with you and that they have valid reasons to disagree with you. So when you write your thesis, you will write it in a gentle, professional manner. There are two ways to write a thesis, and students come in, some of them having only learned one of those ways, and they think that's gospel. There really is more than one way to write a thesis statement. You can write a very simple thesis statement like this one: all girls should take hunter safety. Or you can write a thesis statement that's kind of a roadmap for your essay as a whole. All girls should take hunter safety because no one should be afraid of guns. Everyone should know about gun laws. A non-traditional skill can be very confidence-building for girls, and giving girls this kind of confidence in non-feminine activities helps them to deconstruct the princess mentality that pervades our society. A thesis statement for a small paper, 5 to 10 pages, can easily be of the simple variety, the one at the top. However, if your paper extends beyond 10 pages, you should consider writing the longer thesis statement. It gives your reader a roadmap at the beginning of the paper that will give your paper more coherence as they read through. They will be able to remember the thesis statement as they read your paper, and it will help them to understand your paper better. Definitely avoid clumsy wording when you're writing a thesis statement. A thesis is not an announcement of what you will do. Something like this. In this paper, I will explain to you the many problems surrounding hunter safety. Instead, it focuses on the point you're going to make and allows the reader to realize that what you intend to do. Remember, your reader is smart. You don't need to say things like, in this paper I will, or in summary. Those phrases are awful, and they distance your reader from who you are as a writer. They put distance between you, and it makes the page clumsy and awkward and, frankly, somewhat boring to read. So don't use those kind of phrases. Don't be overgeneralized. A thesis should be specific, provable, and concrete. Some papers begin with a statement like, girls could really benefit from hunter safety. Unfortunately, that is too broad, and you couldn't possibly prove it. Think, what are you really trying to make people believe about hunter safety? Now write your thesis to reflect what you specifically think. You think, if people are afraid of guns, they can be hurt by them. You think, it's important to know gun laws when you have a gun in your home. Guns can be a great way for girls to gain confidence. And when a girl has confidence in herself about things that are non-traditional, she tends to realize that she doesn't have to rely on her looks. So you start to craft sort of the reasons, and you think through it, and then you come to your thesis, and it's very specific, concrete, and provable. Now we're going to talk a little bit about taking your thesis and writing an outline off of it. This is the bottom line. All writers should write an outline. I don't care if you're a railroad writer, a spiraling writer, or a combination thereof. You should write an outline. Railroad writers must write an outline before they write. In fact, they should write a very detailed outline. Oftentimes I find that railroad writers resist this because they want to be able to just get to it. But the problem is, if you don't write an outline, you will be very frustrated. Also, aspiring writers tend to write the outline after they write the rough draft. That's okay, but I do believe that a spiraling writer who writes this simple T-123 outline before they free write can radically reduce the amount of revision that you need to do. Ultimately, a lot of times students are trying to save time. They want to just sit down and start writing. But I have a saying that I've been told, and I love it, and it goes like this. If you take the time it takes less time. Think about all the time you've wasted in the past, writing and deleting and rewriting. If you took the time to write a good outline that helped you to figure out exactly what you wanted to say before you started to write, you will spend a lot less time in revision or redos. So take the time to write a decent outline. I'm going to talk about the simple T-123 outline. It's a good way to think about outlining. It helps you to find a provable point and 3 solid reasons to support that point that answer the question because. So here, for example, is the topic that I've been presenting throughout this presentation. All girls should take hunter safety. Now, why do I believe that all girls should take hunter safety? These are the reasons I believe. 1, no one should be afraid of guns. I talked about that a little bit. Fear is dangerous. No one should be afraid of guns. Everyone should know about laws. That's my position. If you're going to have a gun in your home, you better know the law, regardless of who owns that gun. Okay? A non-traditional skill can be very confidence-building for girls. That's another reason I believe girls should take hunter safety, because they should experience things that are non-traditional. And finally, I believe that girls that have this kind of confidence in non-traditional, non-feminine activities help them to deconstruct the princess mentality that pervades our society. And notice I say, whoops, I had 4 points. You only really need to have 3 if you're writing a 5-paragraph essay. But if you find that your essays aren't long enough, adding an extra point can help with that issue. Reasons are opinions. One of the things that I sometimes see in T-123 outlines is that the student will write a thesis and then they will come up with 3 facts for their 1, 2, 3. Facts are not 1, 2, 3s. The 1, 2, 3 must be opinions. They must be reasons why your thesis is true. Okay? T-123 outlines in their simplest form are not statements of fact. They are statements of opinion. And later, when I demonstrate to you how to expand your T-123 outline and turn it into a research outline, you'll see how you can incorporate facts into this simple outline. But at this point, it should only be opinions. The importance of the word because. Notice that my T-123, there is a direct causal link between my thesis and each of my reasons. When I read a T-123 outline, I should be able to read the thesis, say the word because, and then read the reason, and it should make sense. Establishing this clear causal link between the thesis and the reasons will tighten the logic of your essay and ensure that your piece is coherent and unified. It's an extremely important step. Finally, I'd like to talk about how T-123 outlines are flexible. The beauty of a T-123 outline is that you can adjust it to fit almost any length or type of writing assignment. If you need a longer paper, add a 4th or 5th reason. If you're writing a really long paper, make each reason a subtopic to be covered in several paragraphs. If you're writing a dissertation, make each one a chapter. So it starts out very simple, and it can be so simple that it's just the backbone of a simple 5-paragraph essay. But if you work on the T-123 model, you can make it as big or as complex as you want. I hear this so often. I hate outlines. If I had $1, you know the saying. But really, many students hate outlines because they were taught the traditional ABC 1, 2, 3 outlines of the past. Those outlines are difficult to write, and they're difficult to write a good essay from. They feel like a useless activity. However, T-123 outlines are simple and easy. Every writer, regardless of your approach to writing, should be comfortable and capable of producing a T-123 outline on any essay that you read or write. So I will expect that you will be able to read something, some outside source, and then write a T-123 outline. What is their thesis? What are their reasons based on what you read? And by the same token, I would expect if I asked you, on this paper that you wrote, what is the T-123 outline? I would expect you to be able to produce it. These are simple, and they're dynamic, and they're helpful outlines. So kind of try to release that anxiety that you have about your outlining of the past and to realize how wonderful and simple this outlining technique can be.